We are back, and today's guest is Sanna Calvert, and I'm very excited to be talking to her today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay. Well, first of all, Alicia, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's so great to be here and addressing your audience.
Of course.
So, I guess my background is that I've spent my career mostly in higher education. I went a very traditional route for teaching and research in pharmaceutical sciences, and but along the way, I had to readjust because first of all, I realized that the path I was on, though it looked good on paper and I probably looked kind of impressive, I really hated it. I was ruining my life. And when I got everything I ever wanted, which the last thing was tenure, I realized that this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. Oh my God, what have I done? So so I was lucky because I decided to give tenure back and to stay on to teach. And I went on a search for myself
Oh, I love
at
that.
the age of 36. Um, and in so doing, I realized I had a passion for leadership and professional and personal development. So I went back to school and I got another degree in the science of well-being and a bunch of coaching credentials. And I went off on a mission to change higher ed from the inside out. I thought, what if the university can be a hub of well-being where faculty, students, staff, and the community around it is supported to thrive as the pathway to success? What a concept. Let's support the whole human. And so it was really beautiful. And I finally got my dream job at the University of Georgia. There was a new position in the Office of Faculty Affairs. I was supporting faculty success and well-being. I had just gotten remarried. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my life. And then the bottom fell out because
Hmm.
just 18 months into it, I was coming back from my sister's funeral, and we learned of my husband's stage 4 cancer. And so I had a spiritual awakening. And about 7 months later, about the time he passed away, I received divine inspiration to quit my dream job and move back to Richmond, Virginia, where I spent most of my career, and to put my life savings into starting a nonprofit called the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. And the idea behind the foundation is dated back 10 years prior. Because when my kids were in school, I was seeing how their classmates and the parents and caregivers were acting out in risk taking behaviors. And I recognize this because, as the daughter of two refugees from communist China, I knew what it was uh, to struggle and to be emotionally fragile and to just feel lost and act out. Because you don't know what else to do. And so I went around the school district asking people, why aren't we doing something about this? Because I knew this was teachable, learnable behavior. I had to teach myself. And everybody just kind of said, I don't know. And so this was my call to action that when I said, why aren't we doing something about this 10 years prior, at that point in time in 2018, it's like, well, why the heck don't I do something about it? So
Ooh.
I was invited, I felt like this is my invitation to put my money where my mouth was, quite literally. So that's what I've been doing. I've been creating, we have an online platform that is focused on skill development, in these skills that our schools and workplaces are not teaching us about being a successful human being.
Oh my God, I have so many questions.
Yeah. So it's a learning platform. As I said, it's focused on skills plus knowledge, but primarily skills, behavior change on the spectrum from fragility through flourishing and points in between, because we're all somewhere along this continuum. And so it is for youth and adults. And we do source content from educators in the community, so that we can have a variety of topics, because what I know encompasses about that much of this spectrum, well, maybe more like that. And this way we can have a comprehensive offering for the community.
That is an amazing journey, first of all. So much respect for all that you went through to get to where you're at. And I'm curious, I want to go all the way back to your degree in well-being because I don't think I caught that the first time we talked. So what does that encompass? You say that your knowledge is this much, but you have a whole degree in well-being.
Yeah. Well, in the spectrum of all there is to know about being a successful human,
Mm,
yeah, and it is a sliver. So it's the discipline is called applied positive psychology. Um,
okay.
yeah, so you've probably heard of that. And so
Yeah.
it's really the science of flourishing and well-being. The self-purported father of that discipline is Marty Seligman, who also founded the program I went to at the University of Pennsylvania.
It's cool.
Yeah. And it's a master's degree. And so it's very practical about we're called practitioners about how to help people create well-being and thriving in their life. And it was an amazing program. I had so much fun. It was like, oh, this is what education ought to feel like. Because, I was a science and math geek my whole life, and it just wasn't fun. And when you watch these movies where the professor comes out in a costume and quoting Shakespeare or whatever, it's like that was what my degree was.
That's
And
awesome.
it was really great, but also transformational because you are your own subject for a year and you develop your own practices. And so between that and my spiritual awakening, I feel like I filled in these huge gaps in my life that was preventing me from thriving, including my authenticity, practices for well-being, and then also spiritual development, because I feel like that was just a missing piece that I hadn't really ever given much credence to.
Absolutely. I include spirituality in my biopsychosocial that I do with people, and I guess a lot of practitioners don't. And I love having that conversation with people. There's very few people that I run across who are like, yeah, I don't really ever think about it and I don't really want to. So I kind of leave it alone for them. But otherwise, people seem to be pretty open to it. And I also say to them, this is something worth thinking about. I'm not
Yeah,
going to push it, of course, but it's worth thinking about whatever it is that you come up with as far as your belief system goes. But it's a good exercise for our mind, first of all, just expanding your thinking in that way that there may be something bigger or grander that we don't think about on a regular basis. And then second of all, um, according to my favorite researcher, Dr. Dan Siegel, you cannot separate spirituality from the mind. And what he
wow.
explains, I know, he said people did not like it when he started presenting. It's,
Pretty much your right brain, right?
yes.
And
Yes.
your right brain is that spiritual organ.
Well, we have figured that out, but what he was explaining was that at the time of his research, we didn't have a definition for the mind, and he was trying to discover a definition for the mind, and he was interviewing all of these experts in different fields, trying to come up with, okay, what's your definition of it? And he ended up coming up with a definition that you can't separate the mind and the body, and you also can't separate the energy flow that's happening in your body and the energy flow that's happening between your body and other people. And people may call that spirituality because it is an undefined energy, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And that just blows the mind of Western medicine, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I so agree. It is so real to me. I'm also an energy healer. So, yeah, that energy is very tangible and real. And I'm also really glad that a lot of people are willing to talk about that, or they have that in their life. So, do you also talk about them talk about that in your sessions with them? Is that a
Yeah.
point of development for your clients?
If they want it to be, for sure. But a lot of times it just naturally happens.
Boy, I wish I could come see you in therapy. That's what I want out of my therapist. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'm not gonna lie. I do enjoy it. But if you don't mind, for the audience, can you tell them about your spiritual awakening? Because the way you described it in your story, it sounded like it just happened out of tragedy, which Spiritual awakenings often do, but a lot of times people don't think of it that way. So, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, mine definitely happened at a tragedy because the minute Chris told me the news, I felt myself having a spiritual awakening right in the moment. I realized that my life as I knew it was over,
Wow.
and that I had to lean into spirit and post-traumatic growth to get through this. And so I also, with the help of his daughters, realized like, oh my gosh, this is another avenue for healing in addition to the allopathic, Western medicine approach that we could bring in if we could take a holistic approach, psychological, emotional, physical, and spiritual care, that he would have the best chances for healing. And so, like, that was my main driver. Like, I must bring the forces of the heavens to help him heal. And so, of course, I knew zero about this, or probably enough to be dangerous. And so I just threw myself into this with a fury. And to my credit, he did have, or Chris's credit, really, he was able to heal himself for what felt like a miraculous recovery because he was given 2 to 3 months to live. And probably by month 4, they were weaning him off his medications and things. And we were like, oh my God, we have a new chapter in life. But they took him off one too many meds, and he spiraled downward and was not able to recover. So
Mm.
he did pass away. And so, but during that time, I had developed a relationship with my my guidance and energy healing. I got attuned in Reiki, um, developed my spiritual and intuitive gifts, and I was going a little crazy because, you start to wonder what the nature of reality is. And I wasn't grounded. I didn't have a support person or a mentor. And so, and my
And you
life was
were
truly
doing that
falling.
all solo?
I was doing it pretty solo. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. Well, stupid. I didn't have
No,
any choice. Yeah.
no, I
Um,
wouldn't call it stupid. I mean, obviously you had external motivation, but there also had to be an interest and a passion on internally for you to dive in with that kind of veracity.
Yeah. Well, I feel like some of these gifts were just like waiting in the wings for me to acknowledge them. And what I've learned is that we are all intuitive. We are all energetic energy beings. If we believe that and accept it and then work with it, we can then sense all these energies that our left brain, our cognitive mind doesn't believe. We can pretty, I think, fairly easily, relatively easily, connect to all these energies and is something bigger than ourselves. We can access divine intelligence, which I don't know about you, Alicia, but as smart as we all are individually and collectively, we our problems seem to be getting bigger, not smaller. And so my strategy since I had that spiritual awakening was to just go, well, if I can get help from the universe, from my guides, from spirit, whatever you want to call it, from God, goddess, um, then gee, maybe I'd be better off if I used all the forms of intelligence available to me. So I've
Mm.
pretty much been living my life that way and giving my left brain a rest, and going, I sort of now view my left brain as a wonderful but dangerous asset. So I like to say I keep my left brain in the gun safe, and I take it out when needed. So if I have a certain task or something, yes, I take my left brain out. But otherwise, I like to put that judgy, fearful part of myself on the back burner and be in my body, be in the energies of everything around me, be with nature, be centered and grounded and present. And I didn't set out to do this, Alicia, but what has resulted is I'm just so much more peaceful. I am so much more peaceful than the one who gave up tenure, who was stressed out to the max, was having all these health issues, relationship issues, um, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, all of these things. I was just a hot mess. And I am about 180 degrees a different person where there's very little that stresses me out. Um, and I just feel so grateful and um, centered and peaceful and kind of in love with everything. I mean, just in love with everything. And despite all that's going on in the world, I'm just so optimistic. I just see a really beautiful future for all of us. Although I do feel we are going through a challenging time, which is also our invitation for growth, just like it was for me. That's always what it is. It's our invitation to growth and wisdom. And the more we lean into that and quit fighting ourselves when we get out of our own way, that's when we can just actually make a great deal of progress and make it easier for ourselves because it's already really hard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that Jonah Hill had a documentary that he did with his therapist, and I don't really know much about Jonah Hill, but I really enjoyed the documentary, and his therapist was really cool. And one of the things that he kept saying is life is work. And I feel like it could be translated life is suffering. You can't escape trauma in some way, shape, or form in life. And it's our choice what we do with our pain. And, in the midst of the worst of the pain, nobody's thinking, how is this going to be beautiful in a couple months or a couple years? But that can be the result, even if that's not consciously what you're trying to do in that moment.
Yes, very well said. And I think if we return to the teachings of our ancestors, in this case, I'll refer to the hero's journey,
Oh, yes.
Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, because the hero's journey teaches us when we go into the dark night of the soul or the innermost cave, as Campbell calls it, that when we have the inner growth and the wisdom that we receive, we retrieve the gift of the innermost cave, we can come out the other side, which is return, resurrection, and reward. It is beautiful. Campbell describes that as if doors are flying open and as if you're receiving supernatural help. And back when I was an atheist, I described this phase as if flying on the wings of destiny. That's how it felt to me as an atheist. So I think we should reframe challenge as this is an opportunity to do the deep dive and retrieve the gift that is there for us, which is our healing, us recovering a lost part of ourselves, like a part of our inner child, a part of our innocence, a part of our authenticity.
Mm.
And if we just lean into that, and my mantra was, because I had already studied this by the time I had my spiritual awakening, my mantra was, what do I need to learn to get through this?
Oh,
And
that's so good. That's so
yep,
good because then you're looking for it too.
yes,
Um, there's so much happening in my head right now, and I have no idea where to go. So I'm gonna just probably go on a little rant for a second.
please do. Please rant.
Earlier this year, I went and saw Eckhart Tolle, and he was talking about, I mean, he said a lot of amazing things, but he was talking about life is an ocean, and he said that we tend to stay on the surface and we get distracted by all of the waves and the boats and the birds and all this stuff. And tragedy helps us sink deeper into the ocean and realize that there's so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
suggested that we all start with just sitting with ourselves, just sit with yourself. And that actually does bring me to the other thing I was thinking about, which Dr. Dan Siegel is also the one who taught me, and I don't think this is his finding from research, but he said it in one of his lectures that we have three brains. We have our brain in our skull. We have a neurological pathway around our heart and around our intestines.
Yeah.
So when people say follow your gut, there's actual truth to that, that our body is intelligent and can receive messages that we can't necessarily process in the same way because we don't have the same language center and what's in our brain. And when I then went this August to I keep calling it the Consciousness Conference, but really it was called Sci Games. And at the Sci Games, they had many researchers that were presenting information and physicists and very intelligent people. Um, I highly recommend that anybody go to it. And that's where they were talking about the left brain versus the right brain. But one of the things I learned there, I had never heard the words precognition before. And the way they described it is basically like a gut instinct. Like you get a gut feeling that something's going to happen or that something has happened, and that's your precognition that something is coming or is here. And that if we tune into that more often, if we tune into and this might be what you were talking about as far as getting into your body, which you can expand on that for us for sure. Then we do open ourselves to a different kind of intelligence. And if we really practice that, then we can learn about maybe even connecting with you're nodding your head. You know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I mean it's beautiful. And one of the things I love about you and Lori is that you're bringing in the empirical with the emotional, psychological, and spiritual, and between the two of you, like you really cover the spectrum, which is so great. I love that. Um, yeah, so I used to think of myself as sort of a brain on a stick on two legs, you know? And I was actually really proud of that. Like it's so crazy. Um, but I think I feel like a lot of people operate that way and we're just kind of numb. We're numb otherwise. And we're also socialized to believe that emotional and intuitive, subjective, messy, which is yin, the yin, as opposed to the yang, which is the cognitive and the physical, that all of these yin things, which are tend to be associated with the feminine, not female, but the feminine energy, is like bad. And so I feel like we've just sort of like cut ourselves off from so much of that wisdom and intuition. And actually, I didn't follow, I don't read too much in that sphere, but I did see this TED talk from Jill Bolte Taylor. You probably know her work. She has a book called The Stroke of Insight, and she was a neuroscientist, and she had a stroke in her left brain.
Ooh.
And so it pretty much shut down her left brain, and all she was able to experience was her right brain. And she said it was like nirvana. She
Oh,
had a,
that sounds amazing.
she had a sense of oneness. And I was like that blew my mind. She was her own experiment, and it blew my mind. And I thought, wow, what if I were to use both sides of my brain instead of just one? Would I be twice as smart?
I love it. And yes,
Well,
you would.
no, and I would say no, I'm exponentially smarter because you can
Ooh, okay.
access, like, I feel like our whole body is like one big antenna for sensing everything, so there's the five senses, but then there's like this other, the intuitive, and we can feel that with our heart, we can feel it with our gut, we could feel it with our body. We process it through our right brain, and boy, what if we used all of that? And so coming back into my body was huge because, especially as an energy worker, like I can feel the energy with my hands, but I also feel it with my body. And I'm not naturally an empathic person as defined by feeling other people's feelings. Like I don't do that. And actually, I'm really glad I don't, because that's
It
a
can be
lot.
intense.
Yeah. But when I'm doing energy work and when I'm in people's energy, like I can feel it, and I can feel it in my body. And I realized some time ago, like when I was having this crisis of waking up to myself, I started to do body scan meditations, and I realized that most of my body was numb. Like I could not feel most of my body. And so I would just meditate until, okay, I'm going to meditate until I can feel my toes. And I'm going to meditate till I feel, and I just went up my body that way. And I feel like that's part of our challenge in this in our culture is that our bodies are numb and we need to do extreme things so that we can feel things.
Mm.
We're,
The Go ahead.
yeah. So if instead we're feeling in our bodies, then we can feel the more subtle energies and the more subtle emotions. So if I'm numb, then I need stimuli, I need caffeine, I need conflict, I need, fighting on TV and horrific things, I need to be angry. I need to spend a lot of money. But when I'm in my body, I can just feel peace. I can notice small things. I can notice like a deep insight. I can hear the whispers of my heart and my gut or the divine. I mean, you know, it's um, such a rich universe, and we can tap into probably, almost all of it in some manner, between us. We could probably sense so much of it, but we can't when we're numb and over caffeinated and we have no sleep and we're stressed out and we're running 100 miles a minute. So, um, but it's a chicken and egg thing. I was going to say chicken and horse, because how do you have time to do that when you're trying to have your life? So I realized that, I was very privileged to be able to dial my life back like that.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I've joked with my clients that we can't self-actualize until retirement because we have too many things that we're trying to juggle. Um, and there's a neuroscientist whose book I'm actually listening to right now, and she says people don't like my answer to what is going to help us because the answer is slowing down and connecting with others. And
Yeah,
that the research around connecting with others has really started kind of taking over, I feel like, because I'm hearing it from everywhere and everyone, that our bodies do respond to other people and there is energy flow between us and we can even co-regulate with each other. And then did we talk about the telepathy tapes? I can't remember.
I think you mentioned them to me.
Okay. Um, in the telepathy tapes, it's just for everybody. It's another podcast, actually, a documentary, and they are presenting Dr. Diane Powell's research with severe nonverbal autistic children. And what they found is that a lot of these children are telepathic and they connect with their caregivers and their teachers. And then they also have this place called the Hill where they connect with each other. And they all go up to the hill and they hang out and like communicate with each other because they don't need words to communicate in that whatever the hill is, what you want to call a dimension, plane, I don't know. Um, and at the end of the telepathy tapes, and I'm not trying to spoil it for anybody, you should listen to it because it's amazing. But at the end, the kids say that they are here to teach us that we all have this capability and help usher us into a new era, which I think you were alluding to earlier.
That's right. That's amazing. It is so beautiful. And yeah, I also feel like in addition to us going through our innermost cave and our hero's journey cycles, like part of what's going to come, if it's not already, is a spiritual renaissance. Because as we're experiencing crisis after crisis, a lot of us are going to turn to God or the divine or something. And yeah, that we don't have to go through a pastor or a minister or a rabbi or whatever to access God, goddess, universe, spirit, whatever. And we have all of that. We're natural antennas for divine information and energetic information. And if we really believe that we have these gifts, then they'll come in, and especially if we practice with them. So that's the other thing I do is I teach intuition development and I teach energy medicine and things like that because I mean heck, like my brain is, I mean, I'm pretty smart, but I can't figure out most of even a simple decision like this the thing that says organic, is it really organic, and are they using child labor in India, some, like you just don't know. And so I've just given up trying to figure out all of the variables that are involved in making a decision like that, and just trust my guidance, trust my heart, because I mean our brains think we know, but we don't know it. We don't know anything. And especially if you consider, have you heard about the theory about panpsychism, Alicia?
I don't think so.
So panpsychism is this theory that everything is consciousness. So you might have seen it through some of the quantum research, but and these strings, that make up all, the common denominator for everything, is just energy, and it's all consciousness. And so, this table's conscious, my computer's conscious, the air is conscious, and we're all connected. We're all part of the corpus of the divine, of source, of our creator, and we're all one organism in a way, and we can communicate with everything.
There
you
was a
know
guy that I heard his near-death experience, and all of my clients know that I went down a near-death experience rabbit hole and just like consumed hundreds of near-death experiences. And one of the guys came back saying that his biggest takeaway was that everything's alive. And he was just crying. And he
yeah,
was saying um, that, like you're saying, like everything's connected. Quantum physics says that as well,
yeah.
that everything's connected. But he was using the word alive. You're using the word conscious. I think you could probably interchange them in that scenario. Uh, but he was saying that it caused him to be very emotional about a lot more things because he could just feel so much more.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful to experience that oneness, and not only to experience it, but then when you experience it and you really believe it, you know that like nothing bad can truly happen to you. Your body may come and go and your body may suffer, but we are we are inseparable from source. We are inseparable from this greater consciousness. We can't be lost or harmed. We are immortal. And yeah, and if we take that 30,000 foot or a million thousand feet, million foot view, it's just really beautiful to realize that we're all connected. And if you were even to look at Earth from, the edges of our solar system, I mean, there's no separation between us. Um,
Another thing Dr. Dan Siegel's talking about, this sounds like an ad for Dr. Dan Siegel today, but he has a meditation that he recommends. He calls it the Wheel of Awareness. And he starts with, like you were saying, paying attention to your body. And then slowly but surely, you start to move outside of that. So you're paying attention to your body, and then you're paying attention to the room, and then you're paying attention to the building, and then you're paying attention to the county, I guess you could say, and then the state, and then you just keep going out. And he said that when people get to, and I haven't had this exact experience myself, and I've done his Wheel of Awareness just because I like the exercise of expanding my mind in that way. Um, but he said a lot of people have told him that when they get to the end point of the meditation, they feel a sense of like, oh my gosh, it's all connected.
oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it's all connected and you can feel it and you can communicate with it and be in relationship with it. Because we just act like it's other and I don't have any relationship to that. It's outside of me or it doesn't concern me. But if you can truly feel everything, you can also develop a relationship with it and communicate with it too.
Yeah. Well, what you were saying about being at peace and being in love with everything, the way that I would interpret that through my own belief system, I guess you could say, would be I think we all have a place of peace inside of us, and I think we all have love inside of us, and we can be like the Grinch and we can grow our heart three
Yeah,
sizes,
yeah.
and we can grow this peace and love that's inside of us. And I think that is divine. I mean, that's the way that I interpret it anyway.
No, definitely.
Because another reason that I interpret it that way is everybody in the near-death experiences describes this unconditional love that they feel. And they
Yeah.
say it's hard to even explain because it's just this intense, overwhelming, unconditional love.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's the path of our incarnation, because we are born, I would imagine, feeling one with everything, and then we're socialized. No, you're separate and you're this, and then we get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then we put up walls and coatings around that, and then we have something to protect, and we're scared. And so it feels to me that the path of uh, our lived experience is to remember our divinity.
Ah, yes. I've heard a lot of people say that coming back to yourself. Didn't you say that? I think you said that.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying anything new. I'm quite sure, but to remember that we are all particles of creation. We are all particles of creation, and so our Creator is omnipotent and omniscient. And I just believe that we have access to all of that, and the sense of oneness. We have access to that.
I was just thinking, even on a really concrete level, I mean, we are stardust.
Yeah,
So there is no separation technically if you
that's
think about
right.
it like that.
Except our brain, our ego, believes it to be so. And this is adaptive because we do have to protect ourselves. I don't have a shell or an armor, and I need food, and so that's important. But especially in our culture that is so cognitive and material and physical, it's very young. We have forgotten that other piece of it, and so what I feel like is is on offer for us is to create balance, to create more balance, because we're so yang heavy, materialism, physical, cognitive, um, getting things done, action, problem solving, and we've forgotten sort of the inside of our existence. Oh, would I be twice as smart if I used my right brain? So, like, yeah, let's use all of it, because where we are right now has a lot of opportunity for improvement. And when we bring in all forms of intelligence, our um, our kinesthetic and our naturalistic and our interpersonal and intrapersonal and divine intelligence, well, then maybe we could really have the wisdom to create better lives for ourselves, each other, and with Earth. What if? So that's my dream. That's my hope. That's what I sense is the path we're on. And I've loved talking. I always love talking to Alicia because I hear the other parts of the world that are on this path. Um, we're all here to contribute a piece of it, a great big puzzle. And this is how we're going to figure it out. This is what we're doing. We're making it so.
I love that. And I'm hoping and dreaming with you. I do want to go back to your education platform because I went way down the spirituality rabbit hole, which
We can't
I'm
resist.
not
It's so
upset
much
about it.
fun.
I'm not upset. Um,
It's fun.
but I'm curious, there are a lot of things that I wish school taught. Um, there's, I mean, starting with communication, I would say, probably anger management, probably emotional intelligence. And I'm curious, are those the kinds of things that you're teaching? Okay, that's super cool.
Yeah, yeah. So our flagship course is called Relationship Wellbeing. It's really a personal leadership course, a personal management course. It's about knowing yourself, and managing others. And we have a version for youth, one for adults, one that's intergenerational, and one that's an abridged version called Reflection First, Relationship Wellbeing. And then we have other courses, we have actually two courses on listening, Alicia.
Oh,
One
that's
is
awesome.
how to become a professional listener. The content was contributed by a communications professor at Ole Miss, and a second course called Hearing for Healing that I created with my best friend who's a clinical psychologist, because we said, why is there so much conflict in the world? And I said, well, I think it's because we don't know how to listen to each other. So we
Mm,
created this whole course, and both of them are, all of our courses are about behavior change, how to develop the skills to be an effective listener. So we teach things like active empathic listening. And Lisa talks about the things that get in the way of effective communication. Um, but we have probably over 25 courses now on this continuum of fragility through flourishing. So on the fragility side, we have things like navigating anxiety and forgiveness. We have self-forgiveness almost ready to put up on the platform. We have a course on EFT tapping, using EFT tapping to help manage change. Um, and at the flourishing end, we have a course on happiness, course on joy, um, and stuff in between. So that's I have a course on the hero's journey, because I feel like this is the clarion call that we need to, like, stop believing that the solutions to our problems are for somebody else to solve, or for somebody else to change. We have the solutions within us. We create that within first. So that's the hero's journey, and then also leaning into finding the gift. So the hero's journey, Campbell and most other, I don't know, offerings don't tell us what to do when we're in the innermost cave. So I have a course called Embracing the Shadow.
oh, that's cool.
It's sort of like a roadmap through, or here's a suitcase full of tools and strategies for the cave. And then similarly, there's a course on, like, relationships as a mirror for healing. Like, our intimate relationships can put us into the cave so
Yes,
fast, right? So, but they are a platform, they're invitations for us to see the part of us that is feeling challenged.
yes.
Yeah. So we don't have to have challenge out there. Just our relationships can make us feel challenged. And that's our invitation to be on our hero's journey and to find the gift. Because if I'm struggling with that, there's something in me that needs healing. My innermost child needs to be seen and reassured, and to have a new narrative, um, and to create a new habit, so we don't get triggered all the time.
There
And
was
we have,
a guy, go ahead.
I'm just saying, and we have other courses too.
Okay. There was a guy we had on the podcast, Matt Stafford, and he was saying that he recently started a new practice where he purposely tries to trigger himself just so he can sit with it and figure out where that's coming from for him. And I was like, well, there's a concept.
Wow. There's a real warrior.
Yeah, right.
I
He's
don't
not
think I'm,
afraid of the shadow work.
I don't think I'm quite up for that, but I love that. That's a real commitment. Good for him. Yeah, maybe we'll have the shadow games. Maybe we should do shadow
Oh,
games.
oh God.
Yeah,
I can't
where we
imagine.
purposely trigger each other so we can work through things.
I think we need Brene Brown in that one. So when the shame winds start blowing, we have support. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you, getting back to your story, because we did just kind of brush over this part, unless it's tied into the spirituality, which it may be. how did you get through your grief? Because you mentioned losing your sister and your husband, and it sounds like that was pretty back to back.
Yeah, it was back to back, and my life fell apart too.
Yeah.
So, because I had my spiritual awakening and I freaked some people out and they went running for the hills. So, and then there was issues around the estate. And I mean, it was probably 18 months of just a great big hot mess
Mm.
and a things just getting worse and worse it, as interpreted by my left brain. And so I really just had to surrender to the whole process because there was grief for everything, grief for everything. And so I did a lot of meditating, Alicia. I did a lot of sitting quietly, stillness, allowing whatever wanted to come through to be recognized um, and held and honored and then released. I did a lot of sitting on my porch with earth. And I had a big epiphany because when I was 12, we moved to Texas. And instead of being outdoors all the time, I locked myself into the air conditioned home and vehicles. And so I lost my connection to earth. And I realized that that was part of the relationship, one of the relationships in my life that needed healing. And earth was always there. Earth didn't care if I smelled, if I looked terrible, whether I'd, had any clean clothes or anything like that. And earth was just there for me. And part of me realized, okay, this is part of what we need to do in the foundation is to help us return to right relationship with earth because earth needs us now. We need earth. There's very much a mutual benefit for us returning into a relationship. Earth has consciousness just like everything else in the universe. And she's our mother. She's our mother. And when we return to um, mutual care, allowing that care to go both ways, I feel like there's so much benefit in so many ways.
I think I told you, but a lot of people tell me, even if they don't have a lot of spiritual beliefs or connection, they tell me that they feel connected to something greater than them when they're in nature.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we have a lot of science that also shows that our body responds to nature, that taking our shoes off or hugging a tree or even burying ourselves in dirt,
Yeah.
all
Oh,
of
yeah.
those things our
Yeah.
body has physiological improvements from. So
Yeah.
there is a connection there, whether we're feeling it or not.
Yeah, yeah. And it's our choice, absolutely, if we want to be intentional about that relationship um, or not. And so it's not for everybody, but yes, there's so many proven benefits to that. And to me, it's just been so rewarding to come back to my place as a daughter of our planet.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So through your grief, you were able to be still and sit with yourself, allow I'm assuming when you said you allowed whatever to come, I assume you mean emotions too.
Yeah, emotions and thoughts. Yep.
And you
Just
were
being,
being very intentional with those, allowing them, honoring them, but also releasing them. And
yeah,
then spending time in nature and allowing that to help heal you.
yes. And honestly, it also really helped because, I was developing my psychic abilities. And I was able to communicate with my beloved husband after he passed away.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was huge because I just, that it's a transition, not a death when we leave planet. And it was really profound because we hadn't been married that long. And so there was a lot of his life that I didn't really know. And so, but I had to deal with his estate. And I'd be like, I'd connect with him psychically and I'd be like, do you have a such and such account? Where can I find that? What's the password? And he would just tell me.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. So my scientist atheist self was like gathering evidence. It's like, okay, I am not making this up because,
Yeah.
I can't guess those things. So, so yeah, I mean, that was also hugely comforting to be able to feel his presence, to know that that death is a transition, that I will join him one day, that he's always with me. My sister and my parents are always with me. And so it there's so much less writing on this life when I know that it's just a phase.
That's okay. That's a good way of thinking about it. Um, for one of my clients, I'm going to ask one more question.
Okay.
He lost his wife, I think, less than 2 years ago, and he has been stuck in the cave. And he wants desperately to be able to connect with her, but he doesn't feel like there's any signs. He doesn't feel like there's any dreams, nothing. And how could he potentially open himself up to be able to connect with her?
Well, the surest way to do so is to hire a medium.
He's done
Um,
that. He's
oh,
done that.
he has. Did that
Yeah.
work?
Um, yes, it did work. He's gotten a lot of information, but he wants to be able to connect himself.
Self. Okay. So the first thing is to just start a conversation. I don't know if he's done that, but like set an intention. I hereby connect to my beloved wife, and um, and to the degree he can be in his body, and listen and start a conversation. Hello, are you there? I love you. Are you okay? Tell me about what it's like for you there. Because these communications can kind of whisper to us, and he may be actually receiving message, but just not believing it because it's can be very quiet.
Okay.
There's also techniques for channeling. So he could use an automatic writing technique. So you could basically, um, you would just either type or get a pen and paper and just like create the connection and just let your hand, trust your hand knows what to do. And you just sort of almost like not even really pay attention to it and let your hand write. And then you can go back and look at it. So he can also like take a class in clairaudience or clairvoyance. I'm co-teaching a class right now on clair empathy.
Oh,
And we teach also like what you said, like Dan Siegel, like feeling, you use your heart chakra energy to feel into a larger and larger sphere area. And you might then also include a loved one or something and in that field of energy, and then you can create a heart connection to that being. So there's so many ways. He probably might also be communicating through um, claircognizance. Yeah, where like he might ask her a question and then he just knows in his body like what her answer is.
okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people are intuitive like that they just know the answer. And again, he may not trust it because he wants something overt or whatever. Um, which is okay. It took me years, even after getting passwords and things from Chris, it still, took me years to really believe it. Um, so I really had to be in my practice a lot, get feedback from a lot of people, affirmations, and, you know, slowly I started to believe it more and more, but I was also doing it full time, or,
Okay.
as avidly as I could. So yeah, he could also like get a mentor or something like that.
Oh,
And and who can maybe help him.
okay.
Um,
All right. Well, thank you. That was very useful. Um, I think all of this is so wonderful, and I think it's so cool that you turned academics into something that I don't want to say that's more useful because I respect academics a lot, and I think there's I've quoted a lot of it today, so there's a use for it for sure. But maybe more tangible, maybe that's a better way to say it, something that people can access information that they wouldn't normally have access to in an easy way. And really, it's so cool that that's where your career started, and you're doing the same thing just in a different way now. So it's
Yeah,
interesting how the journey
yeah.
took
And
place.
it's more of a continuum because I mean, it's the psychosocial, emotional, but also spiritual. And it's a continuum. It's a continuum. And so when we really, and these are the things that schools or workplaces do not teach us. So it's this vast, rich, beautiful space where we're pretty much told, oh, just get over it, ignore it, pretend it doesn't happen, just have a mantra and move on, stuff it somewhere, go have a drink, go get a manicure, and I just feel like we're missing out on what is so precious as being a human, and including the relationships, like we're also not taught how to foster healthy, positive relationships. And the biggest take home message from my applied positive psychology degree is that other people matter. And so they used to say this over and over again. And it took me the whole year before I really got it. And so other people, but also nature, connecting, whether it's to people, to nature, to the divine, whatever matters to you most, like that's what's will feed our hearts and souls.
And I will speak for Laura today since she wasn't here, because one thing that Laura likes to bring us back to every single episode is that it starts with connecting with yourself. And that was exactly what you described in your journey. And that's what I think your platform does as well. And that's where our work begins, is connecting with
Yeah.
ourselves. And then we can
Yes.
connect with others and nature and all of that.
Yes. Yes. Well said. And I hope to meet her. I hope to meet her one day.
Yes.
But thank you for this. So much fun talking to you, Alicia, as always. And I always learn from you so much, you and Laura. So thank you for this beautiful work and the offering to the community.
Thank you. I really appreciate your work and sharing your journey so authentically with us. And hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.